Hello there, Wolf from here. With the title of the 20th Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom revealed long before Halloween 2022, what better subject to cover than the source of malice in Hyrule himself, Ganondorf. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell as we're going for 3,000 likes, one for each layer that he's trying to dominate. But let's not waste any time and get inside Tears of the Kingdom's Ganondorf. Poor old man. Ganondorf, just like Princess Zelda, has been missing since E3 2021. With that being said, he has been there in the title reveal trailer and box art. Where? Well, right here in Malice Hyrule Castle. But we haven't seen our dehydrated beauty in person for over 500 days, and that is way too long. So what has he been up to while Link has been exploring, running, jumping, and climbing the Sky Islands? The answer is pretty obvious. Nothing good. Either holding Princess Zelda imprisoned in the sanctum of the castle, or if she's still underground, that is to say, alive or well, dead, enough of evil from his new striking position, the high ground.
Hello there.
Since Hyrule has changed with massive wind and storm barriers, and with malice instead of lava coming out of Death Mountain, the King of Demons, Darkness and Evil has once again returned to challenge the House of Hyrule and their chosen hero. Round 1 underground was a resounding success, with Link's hand being most likely completely cut off by Malice, Link and Zelda once again separated, and Daddy G as king in the castle. Even so, you can win the battle as Ganondorf has in Zelda's past, but what matters in the end is the war. And so far, Link is on a good way to make a comeback in round 2, with a replacement time-altering arm, new vials, and a quest to restore the Master Sword. Somewhat. Though in the past Ganondorf has always had a twist in store, and hence we believe there is a reason as to why we have only seen altered, / enhanced and combined forms of existing monsters and open-air bosses from Breath of the Wild. You know, the most basic adversaries, bokoblins, moblins and stone taluses. The truth is that Ganondorf has thus far kept his card tied to his chest and only revealed throughout 2022 a little malice in a new location. At the same time, we know that what he's preparing for all of us playing as Link is true hell. A nightmare of malice that will result in casualties, as restoring Hyrule is something else than restoring some fallen rocks back to where they belong up in the sky. The surface will not be the constant upturn it was in Breath of the Wild. No doubt the Master of Malice will make sure that we get our tearful turning points, plot twists and struggles in the settlements we have known and loved for well over half a decade at this point. Now they might become areas of skirmish. So much so that we will want to pull out the not fully restored Master Sword to counter. The big question is whether Zelda's main villain will show up in the flesh in some of these up to now safe zones, specifically Gerudo Town, where his own people are now his greatest foe. Though they have a great weakness in the young Riju. Hence we might see Ganondorf challenging the throne here long before we charge and storm the elevated Malice Castle. The strategy of remaining in an occupied castle or his own tower never worked for Ganondorf in the past, as waiting until facing Prime Link only resulted in defeat. In other words, sealing or worse for the past Gerudo King. So being proactive is probably a better strategy, though he needs to be careful as every tribe and province surrounding him wants him dead after what he did the last 100 years and well in the present as well. Hence we wouldn't be surprised if Ganondorf was hiding in Hyrule Castle, or if you prefer his castle, so Ganon's castle, as it would be typical of Ganondorf but isn't the way of the new Zelda. Because these new Zelda games directed by Fujibayashi are all about breaking one thing: established conventions. Indeed, and since Girahim's multiple, and then we mean multiple appearances before the final showdown and reveal of the mice in Skyward Sword by, well, exactly Fujibayashi, I can't see Ganondorf not appearing at least once or twice to humiliate Link and at least cause pain and sorrow beyond throwing Link into the void in the beginning, or if you prefer, cause true Tears of the Kingdom. After all, it has been made clear that it is tears in crying and not tears in separating or ripping apart, also in Japanese. And to live up to the title of the game when it comes to the tone, we need Ganondorf to show his vile side in contrast to the vials on Link's hip. Duality of true good versus evil, light and darkness, courage and power. That is what Aonuma-san, Fujibayashi-san and the rest of the Zelda team are preparing. heaven and hell, and a roller coaster of emotions that will elevate the structure and depth of Zelda's storytelling to a new level. This time we'll have story and gameplay, and enhancements in game will in a large part be brought by none other than the villain who kept us waiting since 2006.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Yes, you have, Ganondorf, and in the meanwhile we have received a new origin villain, the nemesis of goddess Hylia in Demise, whose hatred is apparently the reason as to why you keep showing up, bringing tears and ruin to Hyrule and the Hylians. 90% wiped out 100 years ago, but not the two prime targets of the Triforce yet. And Demise's eternal hatred and revenge against the blood of Hylia and the spirit of the hero are the pillars of this franchise, but also the untraditional trilogy that Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom represent. Though it is plausible that Demise might return at some point in the climax of Tears of the Kingdom, we shouldn't forget the many hints towards a tribe that Ganondorf might have been in cahoots with in the past, the Twili, the potential bloodline ancestors of the Zonai. At this point it is still all speculation, but if they are now fully on Link's side returning to their original Sheikah roots, then it is clear that this time the Sheikah and Kakariko will not be left alone. Yes, the settlement closest to Hyrule Castle to survive the calamity is now a key target for Ganondorf. If the Zelda team really wants to go dark and erase a settlement other than Tarrey Town and only leave a single survivor, then look no further than Kakariko Village and Pyre. Why? As such an event could serve a dual purpose, bringing Pyre finally out of her hometown after her grandmother is gone, and also for a good reason, as she has a personal vendetta against Ganondorf. Or if you prefer, becoming the new young Impa, the warrior we saw in Age of Calamity. With that said, Ganondorf has to tread lightly, since currently only the Yiga, the Kakariko Sheikah's rival, are firmly on his side. But this could change. The last you want is a three-front assault from the Yiga in the west, the Sheikah in the east, and the Zonai from the sky and possibly even underground, all united against Ganondorf. The outline for an incredible and dark story is right here, and the more we fight the big bad in gameplay sequences along the way, then even better until the great revelation in Hyrule Castle and the battle that will at last remove the bad taste that Dark Beast Ganon left in 2017. No more compromises, but fulfilling the potential of a fully open-air franchise, and this one will not be complete without granting Ganondorf the perfect voice in Japanese, but more so English, French, German, Spanish, and so on. We're talking about the villain of the franchise here, and the ultimate culmination in the 20th Zelda game, and during the franchise's 30s, as the next open-air title will be out after the franchise has turned 40 years old. A possible completely different experience that is truly a Zelda unknown, but until the final confrontation against Ganondorf, we shouldn't even think into that direction. We need a manipulative, crazy, demonic, cunning, and most of all evil mastermind that is brought to life in all languages. The Zelda team will nail the Japanese voice actor, no doubt, but English is a major question mark, but also a great opportunity to bring in a big and very talented voice from one of the big shows and games. In the past we brought up Game of Thrones and The Witcher's Charles Dance, who could with his authority truly bring the character to life.
He's a very, very powerful man, probably the most powerful man, and as such, he doesn't need to throw his weight around. He's a man of few words. The words he speaks speak volumes. And he's ruthless. He's ruthless because he has to be.
My patience has its limits. Do not test them.
But there are other solid alternatives from the world of video games, TV shows, and movies. And no, the main plot target until a potential late-game twist cannot be half-assed. It must be a perfect cast who will bring the horror to Tears of the Kingdom and truly make us fear Malice Monster Ganondorf. Not a mumbling, dehydrated, walking skeleton when we already have our mute grunting Link. Even so, the power of the same skeleton is ludicrous when it could almost kill Link and possibly kill Zelda in the very beginning of the game. No doubt, Ganondorf is key for this game to nail the story, and more so the backstory as to how he is still here. Who knows how many years have passed since his multiple deaths in the old timeline. At the same time, Ganondorf is also instrumental to the gameplay, and hence the most exciting and scary character and foe in the sequel. And that is even if Demise was to show up out of his corpse or something in that vein in the final battles. A true duel of fates that will determine at last to some extent the future of The Legend of Zelda. That is why Ganondorf and his minions serve such a key position in this sequel of restoration and combinations. Still, there's one thing we haven't touched on, namely the nature of the final battle itself. After all, the battle against Mars Koshia in Champion's Ballad was a tease of what to expect from Ganondorf. All when it comes to combos, difficulty, tone, setting, introduction, and so on. I sincerely believe that with this fight, the Zelda team will surpass the scale and scope of all the past Ganondorf final battles. Ocarina of Time, the Wind Waker, and the 4-stage 1 found in Twilight Princess Climax. All to redeem yourself after Dark Beast Ganon in Breath of the Wild. The same goes with how hard the music will go when he shows up and faces us on the screen. The leader of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Conquest, war, famine, and death. All 4 are needed in the sequel to build a true horror of Ganondorf in Tears of the Kingdom. The Zelda enemy that has been with us since 1998, and an extension for Ganon since 1986, the very beginning. The true force of power and malice, who was the perfect fit for our 2022 Inside Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Halloween special. But what do you think Ganondorf will do and not do in Tears of the Kingdom? Bring your best and darkest ideas in the comment section down below, and who knows, we might include them in a future video. If you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell to not miss any future episodes of Inside Tears of the Kingdom gameplay, and specials like this one and many other Zelda and Nintendo videos. A big thanks to all of you for watching, and to all our patreon.com/CommonRealm patrons, and in particular to our role producer Charles Shash. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these 2 awesome but also spooky videos.